So there's usually three main questions that people ask me when they're thinking about or wanting to come to Mexico to invest. The top question is, can I, right? Can I, as a foreigner, buy in Mexico my land or my investment for a house or a condo or for whatever you're trying to invest into? In short, the answer is no. Technically, legally, you can't buy anything in Mexico because you're not a Mexican resident or a Mexican citizen. So if you want to become a citizen, then yes, you can buy property or land to build a home or a condo or develop here in Mexico. But there is a loophole. The Mexican government has a loophole that allows foreigners to invest in Mexico. So don't give up on Mexico quite yet. Don't start investing in Europe or somewhere else. There is a loophole, and that loophole is a law that they created called a fideicomiso. So what is a fideicomiso? A fideicomiso in English would be a deed in trust. What you're basically doing is the Mexican government is not giving you the land 100% ownership to you. What they're doing is they're giving it to a Mexican entity, which would basically be a bank, that holds the deed in trust, and then in turn, they lease it to you, so to speak, for lack of a better term, for 50 years. Now, in those 50 years, for all intended purposes of being an owner, it's yours. You can leave it in a will, you can sell it, you can demolish, you can build, you can do whatever you want with it. It's yours for the next 50 years. Now, there's a cost affiliated with that. A fideicomiso usually costs between $2,500 and $3,500 US dollars to initiate, to start. And then every year for the next 50 years, you're going to pay $500 a year. Now, at the end of those 50 years, you have a choice. You can be 80, 90, you're done, or you've already died, passed away, and given it to your children in a will, and your children have that choice where you can renew it for another 50 years. And all you're basically going to be paying is that $2,500 to $3,500 to renew that fideicomiso, okay? So this is your way of being able to get a piece of paradise and getting your investment in Mexico. Other things and ins and outs that are very important that you need to understand is there's only one way to get the fideicomiso set up. There's only one way to get registration with the government, the Mexican government, for your deed and your title and registration of your property. It has to be through a notary. It has to be through a notario. Notarios are government authorized attorneys that are allowed to do your titling and your registration and to set you up with your fideicomiso and ownership of your property in Mexico. Let me explain to you just a little bit of what a notary is. I mean, not what a notary would be in the United States or a notary, let's say, in Canada or wherever else you're from. Mainly, a notary in the States, for example, you go to the post office, you read a script, you hold your right hand up, you promise you're going to be a legal citizen, you're going to do things the proper way, you're not going to do things illegally, you're going to be there to make sure their names and their signatures match, and then you do your stamp, right? And anybody can become a notary in the United States. In Mexico, to be a notary, you have to be an attorney, right? So you have to go to school, get a law degree, graduate with a law degree, and once you have that law degree, you can apply to be a notary, right? So you'd basically be doing exactly what other people do, like doctors do in the United States. When you do an internship, right? You're doing your doctorate, your internship, you go to a hospital and you work in the hospital for a certain amount of time to hopefully be offered a job at that hospital, right? You're gonna do a similar thing. Notaries do the same kind of thing here. They'll work in another notary's office, helping them with legal paperwork and legal transactions for real estate and other whatnots. And after a certain period of time, they then apply to get that notarial services license to open up their own offices, okay? So that's what the notary does. So there's two things that are very, very important you need to understand is, yes, you can buy in Mexico, even if you are a foreigner. And once you buy in Mexico, you're gonna get it through a fideicomiso, and the fideicomiso has to be done with a notary, okay? Now, some people ask, how much does all this cost? Who do I contact? How do I do it? How do I do it? There's a lot of ins and outs, and you think it's very, it can be stressful, it can be daunting, and make you not want to get involved, okay? It's actually very simple. Most notaries have established themselves throughout the Riviera Maya. You've got a bunch in Playa del Carmen, you have a bunch in Tulum, and they handle almost all the transactions, if not all the transactions in the area. You as a buyer have a choice. A real estate agency, whomever you choose to work with, will help you and guide you with whatever alliances they've already made through the purchasing process. Sometimes the developer has a notary they've been working with, they'll recommend. Nobody will force a notary on you. It's still going to be your choice in the end. And the notary will take care of finding out how much it costs. But a good rule of thumb, right? Something you can kind of put a little gauge on it. Roughly, it's about 7% of the purchase price of your property is what you're going to pay for closing costs. When I say closing costs, I'm talking about notarial services. That includes the fideicomiso that's in there, that $3,500 that I told you about earlier, $2,500 to $3,500, that's part of that 7%. And all the legal fees and all the intricacies of getting the property registered and putting it in your name, along with the fideicomiso stuff and the closing, the contracts and the legal transactions are done through the notary, and it's about 7%. That's your total cost, okay? So that's the fideicomiso, and that's your notary stuff. Another question people ask me, they want to know is, what are the taxes in Mexico, right? How much do I pay in taxes? Well, that's one of the best benefits that we have in the real estate market in Mexico, especially in this area, is the amount of taxes that you pay. You pay 0.02% of the property value in yearly taxes on property taxes. You heard that right. With that being said, you can buy a lot of property and you have lots of different options on doing that, and your taxes aren't going to be very high. Now, if you plan on buying more than one property, there's some huge tax advantages of opening a corporation, an LLC in Mexico, which you can also do. And when you do that, most of your expenses will end up being tax write-offs as a business expense, because you're basically you start leveraging your purchases, your properties, and your expenses of an upkeep and stuff like that. That's something else that we can help you with in Mexico, along with whomever you work with, okay? They can help take care of that type of stuff, okay? So the last but not least, or one of the last things I think it's very important to talk about, is what type of things you can buy, or what type of real estate you can buy in Mexico. People ask me about, is the resale market really good, or is it better to buy, pre-construction, or is it better to buy land and build myself? All three of those options are three very good choices. It just depends on how much money you have to spend. I know it sounds, very black and white, but realistically, that's really the true answer. To develop a property, there's a lot of new things you have to overcome. There's laws, and there's permits, and there's things you need to understand on how to be a developer. It's not just, hey, I'm gonna go build in Mexico. Can it be done? Yes. What you would do is first, you work with whatever agency you wanna work with, you find the land that you guys feel is gonna be good, you prospect the land where you wanna build, and then you hire a development company. There's lots of really good development teams here right now in the Riviera Maya that have very good track records on building, designing, architects, engineers, government contacts to get everything done so you can build. Okay, so yes, that is an option. Again, that'll be through a fideicomiso, building your entire building, okay? Your next option would be a resale market. Is the resale market good? Yes and no, right? The reason I say yes and no is there's just so much competition on the new developments now. If you bought something, if you want to buy something that was built 10 years ago, you really have to go inside, lift the skirt up, so to speak, look underneath and see what's going on, because a lot of the older developments from back in the day, there's wear and tear. We live in a tropical destination. Your rebar is gonna rust on the inside of your cement, just for an example, throw something out to you guys. So buying something that's 10 years old or older, you need to do some really good research. Again, that's the type of work you're gonna do with whomever you choose to work with in your real estate arena, okay? Whoever your trusted agent's gonna be, you work with them, they're gonna help you do your due diligence to make sure that resale is gonna be something that's worth buying. Sometimes you do come across somebody that's, it's moving, just like in the States, someone that's moving, someone's getting out of the country, someone that is tired of being here, or they wanna move their money somewhere else and they're doing a hot sale, and you find something that's just too good to give up, then yeah, you're gonna get those every once in a while and buy something, okay? So the last one would be pre-construction. Let's talk about pre-construction for a split moment. Pre-construction has its positive and its negative, just like everything else. There is a bigger upside, I think, with pre-construction, and a lot of the negative can be avoided if you do your due diligence and you actually do your homework and you understand truly what you're getting yourself into. Again, this is what the agency that you decide to work with is going to help you walk you through the process and make sure you do your due diligence and do the research on who you're going to be buying your pre-construction from. There's certain red flags and certain things that you want to look for when you're going to pre-construction. Number one, I guess would be, they're asking for a bunch of money up front to give you a big giant discount, and they haven't started building yet, right? So in other words, they need your money to build. Without your money, they don't finish building. And that could be a big problem, right? So that's usually a red flag. Most of the big developers that do the pre-construction, they give you small discounts, 3, 5, 6, maybe 7% off based on your initial down payment. And they'll give you payment options where you put 30% down and you pay the remaining balance when they turn the keys over to you for the built condominium, okay, or house or building or whatever you're buying through the pre-construction. Now, other red flags that you want to look for with the pre-construction is how many developments have these guys had? Most developers are going to have a resume, just like you or I would do for a job that we're presenting ourselves for, on what our accomplishments are, what we've done in the past, and why we qualify to be hired by this company. Well, the exact same thing happens with a developer. The developer will have a Google Drive, and that Google Drive will have a resume in there. And that resume is going to give you an idea of what they've done in the past, or who the engineers are, who the architect was, what they've done before, why are they qualified to be doing a building in Tulum. Now, once you've done your proper research, you see that resume is up to par and you feel secure with that, then we go to the next step and we start looking at prices, looking at the designs and stuff like that. Okay, that's another thing very, very important you need to look out for, to see how many developments a pre-construction developer has done. Okay, so those are the really condensed negative part. What are the upsides of pre-construction? Money. Money, 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 money. The pricing is very, very attractive when you get into a pre-construction opportunity. Because let's say you've done your homework, their resume is amazing, they've got their building permits, they've got the land, it's all in the right name, the titles are all correct, everything's registered with the government properly, and they're building. And these guys are giving you an opportunity to get involved with 30% down. I would venture out and say maybe 80 to 90% of developers do price increases on their development every time around 30% of their developments get sold. So what does that mean? If you get in on the pre-construction before they even start selling, or get in the friends and family pricing structure, and you have the opportunity to get involved, you're going to be able to increase or get an equity in your condo before you've even put a foot inside the door. It's going to increase 3 to 5%. That's the average increase in price every 30% of the units are sold. Now, if there's 21 units, then every time 5 sell, right? Or whatever that number may be. 30% sold, increase 3 to 5%. If you can be at the very beginning of this, you're looking at a 15% to maybe 20% increase in price just because you got in early. So by the time they give you the keys to your condo, the condo you bought for, let's say, $100,000 is now worth $120,000. That's an amazing return on your investment just within the equity in 18 months, or let's say 20 months is the build out time on a pre-construction. So that's one. 2, the ease of payment. Let's say you're not liquid. Let's say you need to wait till your crypto gets higher. Let's say you got to dump some stuff. You got to move some things around in the States or wherever you're from in order to generate that income so you can buy this. Well, you don't have to have all the money up front like you do with a resale. All right, you don't have to have all the money up front like you would with a piece of land. A piece of land, you pay it off to own that piece of land. With pre-construction, like I mentioned earlier, you can put 30% down. That 30% is enough to hold this condo for you. You sit back, you do whatever you got to do. 18 months later, when they're ready, they're done being built, you're going to go to a notary, set up the fideicomiso, and at the notary, when they hand you the keys, is when you finish paying the other 70%. That's option 1. There's other condo developers that will give you payment options, right? They'll do financing. Matter of fact, there's a couple right now that are doing 10-year financing for Americans. So you do 30% down and they'll finance 70% over 10 years. Interest rates are kind of crazy. I'll talk about those in a minute, but it's an option. It doesn't leave you out in the cold if you don't have all the liquid right up front, right? So pre-construction is a great opportunity. There's lots of pre-construction right now. There's lots of good amenities. Another thing you need to look at when you're looking at pre-construction is seeing how many amenities do they offer. I'm not saying this is a positive thing, because the more amenities there are, the higher your maintenance fees are going to be, right? It's a question people ask is how much are the maintenance fees? Well, they range between $1.50 to $3.50 a square meter. That's the average that you're going to get in most developments. The high end of $3.50 a square meter, $4 a square meter, when you start getting higher than that, it's because they have so many amenities and there's a lot of upkeep in the condo development. And most of those amenities, they look good, they sound amazing, but you really don't use them. right? So you need to find yourself a happy medium. You know, do you want a gym? Yes, I want a gym. Do I want a yoga spot? Yes, I want a yoga spot. I want to have a rooftop pool. What more do you want? Green areas? Perfect. You know, but that's not really amenity. That's part of the development itself. Okay. So pre-construction is a great opportunity, and it can give you an opportunity to get involved with a lower price, build equity, and ease of payment. Okay. So now you've figured out what you want to do, you've got the land picked, or you've got the home or the condo that's already been built at the resale market, or you're looking at pre-construction, and you're wanting to know, is there other financing outside of the pre-construction? Can I finance? The answer is yes, you can finance, but the interest rates are high. Okay, they're high for everyone else in the world. Well, right now the interest rates are kind of raising. They're around 7%, 8% in some countries. But here in Mexico, the smallest or the lowest interest rates you're going to be receiving, you're going to be getting, is like 9.8, 9.5% is like amazing, up to 11 to 12% interest rates. And that's a standard. So if you're looking at this as a pure return on your investment property, or a property you want to do to invest, to rent out, to make your money, you're eating up your entire profit on interest, right? So unless you can do double payments for the first 5 years and lower your interest from 11 to maybe 6%, or if you have a 9.5% interest rate, you do double payments as well, you can lower your interest rate because you're lowering your capital, right? You're lowering the loan amount that you have on interest. So the answer is yes, you can do financing. Whomever you're going to work with, whatever advisor you guys have down here, whoever you want to work with when you're here, they're going to guide you on different avenues that you've got for financing. If you like the information I gave you all right now, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe below, and I'm going to keep on giving you guys content like this in the future, okay? I'll be giving you guys free information, free education to get you guys feeling good and at ease with your potential investment in Mexico. So I'll see you guys soon. Talk to you later.